Many of us have the gift of writing, and so today when I do the gifts, I'm going to start by talking about the literary gift. The written word has power, and writers have a need to write. The gift of writing spans through our lifetimes, and if we were scribes in the monasteries, poets, novelists, and lovers of literature, this will actually come up in this life. In most lives, we show an interest in literary areas. However, for some, the gift is profound and consuming. We have to write, and it is like breathing for us. Whether we're using a computer or scribbling on the back of a menu, the urge and compulsion is overwhelming. And many of our past lives had laid a firm foundation of language in written communication, and we will write clearly and quite easily. Usually our written gift spans across to poems, sayings, and lyrics, which taps into the past. I was told of my life as a note keeper in the spiritual realms. It made perfect sense because I have volumes of information about the healing and spiritual work. I write down everything that I learn or discover. And while I was beginning my journey, I read all the time to gain information. And today I write book after book. Some of us know we have this gift psychically, and there are books to be written. I remember dreaming over 20 years ago of being in a bookshop and seeing my book on the bookshelf. In reality, it has been a long and demanding path. However, I know in my soul this is what my service work is. This is my calling. So with a deep conviction, I have kept working decades after decades to finish my mission. This is why I'm doing the podcast, because these podcasts are actually a lot of the information that I've written in my books. The next one is sporting gifts. I didn't really get this one, I don't think. When we are born with sporting ability, our lives have to include physical activity. There is no choice because we have to run, jump, and be active. You will see these children when they're young. They're throwing balls, they're kicking, they're running, they're jumping, they're falling off the play equipment. These are the children who are going to be very sporty. Sometimes the families we choose will be with are the same, and they encourage our interests. Our parents support us and drive us to football fields on cold, rainy days to stand and cheer, and they give money and time to further our achievements. Usually as a child, we are bouncing around and hitting everything in sight. The gift manifests before we have many skills, and while one child is sitting reading a book, the other is outside being very physical. Our physical body is chosen before we arrive on earth. A future basketballer chooses to be tall and balanced. A sumo wrestler is stocky and muscular because we need certain body types to allow us to master our sport and excel. When handicapped, we are able to engage in many sports. Wheelchair basketball players are examples. I know of a young man who lost the use of his legs after a horrible bike accident. As he recovered, he began to play basketball and his sporting interest continued. In past lives, the sport may have been different, but the yearning to play is the same. It is the thrill of competing in the race against another worthy opponent. As we age, our sport changes from football to golf, but the need to play is strong, and without an outlet, we will become restless and bored. My husband was very sporty. He played all the different sports, and at 70, he was still playing baseball. And I noticed that when he didn't play, he got kind of cranky. So it was something that he actually needed to do to make his life complete, and he really loved his baseball. We also love watching sport and becoming part of the game while we're sitting on the couch. And sporting people are competitive and enjoy the company of others. Their common interest unites them in a way rarely felt. Reminiscing about winning last year's competition never gets old, and memories are formed and treasured. In past lives, we were avid horse riders and fighters, especially in wars. Sparring and keeping fit were important in battle, and climbing mountains and running were sporting outlets. And having spent lifetimes being active, it is in our soul. Lives as monks and yogis form another kind of physical activity. The same is true for any kind of dancing. Although dancing has an artistic element, it is physically demanding. In readings, I've seen people as belly dancers, Spanish dancers, and acrobats, and their past lives are replaying in their present life. Although in our present life there is a learning curve, a natural ability propels us further quite quickly. Many of our top athletes outshone in previous lives, and this gift remains ready to be activated. We will often be in families that are very sporty, so They have a sporting ability, which we inherit genetically as well. So we get the past life gift, but also the body, and then we also get the genetic gift from our parents, and this makes it easier for us to move on. The next one I want to talk to is artistic gifts. Artistic gifts manifest at an early age. As a child, we're always drawing or painting. One of my sons wanted me to draw for him every day. I drew cars and rockets over and over again, and his wish to draw was strong, but he was too little to master the pencils. We had crayons, paint, paper, and mess everywhere when the children were young, and today my little artist lives in the world of art. Foster this gift because many make careers from art. It takes hours and hours to learn to draw well, even with the gift, and our hands need to get used to drawing or painting and our eyes to see artistically. The enjoyment and pleasure comes when we reconnect with our artistic side. We can learn how to draw technically, but true artists draw from their soul, and their work has another dimensional quality which puts it above the rest. When you draw from your soul, the actual piece of work that you do will have an energy. Like when people look at it, they'll actually feel something, they'll have a connection. The work ascends and reaches another level. Our energy is imbued in the drawing and the painting, and therefore it has a life of its own, and the vibration of the artist is locked in and is reflected in their artistic piece. Try to foster the gift in others and teach yourself or go to lessons. And once you remember the feel of drawing or painting, our gift opens up to drawing and improving. I began late learning how to draw. My art had consisted of abstract, but I wished to master drawing. And inside of me, I knew I'd drawn before. And although some of the pieces were frustrating at the start, the more I practiced, the better I became. Drawing is a difficult skill to hone. It's not easy like people think. Some people have a natural gift, but you'll find behind the natural gift are hours and hours and hours and hours of practicing. Even professional artists have trouble drawing sometimes. They might have trouble drawing feet or getting it to actually work. So there's a kind of frustration with drawing. It's not as easy as people think. It needs quite a lot of skill. So keep working on your gift and your skill and allow for a learning curve. The past life talent is there, but we have to be patient and take the time needed to manifest our dreams. When I've done readings, I've seen people in past lives, like they used to sit outside and do the landscape drawing and paintings, or they were doing portraiture, or they were doing the very small sketches. And I saw them taking their little travel books and drawing pictures, almost like we take photographs now. They would actually draw the picture of the beach at Brighton or the castle. So when you see that, then you know inherently that these people were drawers. Business gifts are another gift we get past life. Having a business gift provides money and financial security, and we will have a gift for creating wealth and empires. And it'll appear early in our years. Our relationship with money becomes a vehicle for prosperity, but also risk. We may fail and have to rebuild, but we are able to weather the ruin. In past lives, we were traders and worked in finance. Today, we are financial gurus, managing large amounts of monies and organising our staff. However, instead of feeling daunted, we thrive on the challenge. Our former businesses may be similar, however, many of us diversify, and that's because the world has changed. So we'll take our skills, our past life skills, and then we'll actually tweak them to fit into this world. The internet has become the shop in the sky. It is the perfect avenue to create, run businesses, and make vast amount of money if you are lucky and able to do so. Our selling abilities come from lives using similar models. We know when we have a business gift. It runs through our blood and often comes from families with business backgrounds. There's a visionary aspect to our thinking, and we project plans and make goals. With one idea, we're capable of building a business model and extending it as it grows. We also have an interest in business and finance, are keen, wanting to know, wanting to learn, wanting to be involved. The gift also includes an intuitive part, which you utilise when we're making a big decision or investing large amounts of money. Our past lives of gain and loss help to temper our impulsive choices. And in the past, we probably had failure and losses. knowing when to take risks and not require serious intention, and risk-taking is a foundation of business growth and also demise. Money is a fascination to us. We're always plotting and planning. It is a 24-hour activity. There's a little rest for business heads, and we tend to burn out unless we take precautions to relax and focus on other parts of our life. I had a friend, and he was really interested in business, and he and his wife would come over for dinner, and he'd be sitting there, and I knew he wasn't concentrating because I could just see the inside of his head tick, tick, ticking about the next truck he was going to buy. He actually couldn't switch off, and he loved it. He was very rich, and he didn't really need money, but he obviously could do it. He hadn't really done very well at school and couldn't read properly, but it made no difference because he was actually a business person and loved it. I'm going to talk about money just in this section because it seems to follow on well after the business. So in some lives, past lives, we were rich and in others poor, and when we had money and wealth, we had more opportunities and had an easier life financially. Travel was easy and living meant our past lives were not one of deprivation and starvation. Perhaps we were from royalty and nothing was beyond our reach, and living on huge estates and within the royal time allowed us to live in luxury. This life was normal and nothing was beyond our reach, and servants were at our beck and call, and our days were filled with opulence. To be able to spend large amounts of money gave us freedom and security, and our standing in society was elevated due to our financial status. In some of our past incarnations, we remained wealthy until we died. However, due to financial ruin and war, we could lose it all overnight, and many rich families and societies were stripped of their wealth by others. Rebellion within countries was common, and when the masters then became the slaves. Previously, the hierarchy of master to slave gave us power, and during past generations, slavery was common and accepted. In our present life, the way we view slavery and human injustice is influenced by our wealthy past, and sometimes we fight against it, and other times we see no problem with the inequality. Wealth brings responsibility and family loyalty. Our lands were tied into strong ancestral obligation, and there was pressure to maintain our standing. Being born into a rich family means we are bound by the rules and obligations of our family and servants. Nothing comes without a price. Some of the outcomes of the past life where we were rich is twofold. We continue to be well off, or we find ourselves living below the poverty line or in poor circumstances. Coming directly from money into poverty is a giant lesson, and it takes time to come to terms with. Everything will seem unfair, we envy others and what they have. Although the situation was chosen for us to experience both sides of the coin, we felt like a victim to our situation when it happened, when in fact we are working at a higher level spiritually. Perhaps we wanted to learn humility or walk in someone else's shoes. There may have been some other lives when we worked as a humanitarian, when we were channeling our money, helping other people, sponsoring those in need. In these past lives, we had the power to change and foster a person's talent, as in the case of impoverished artists and scholars, because without financial aid, they could not have reached the same success in their field. Today, we see the rich sharing their fortune by setting up programs and places for disadvantaged people. However, this is not always the case. It could have been part of our sacred contract to use the money for good, but once we return to earth, greed often takes over. However, when we have promised to share our fortune and we decide not to, there is a karmic backlash. It happens in the current life or is paid in another one. Signs of instant payback are losses incurred through greed, and our lands and goods are taken away through war, ruin, and pillage. It is our karma to pay. The financial drop is sudden and life-changing, and we sort of experience two lives in one. First, the opulent one, then another life stripped bare financially. One of our greatest lessons is to give love, and being generous is a physical manifestation of love. Our personality dictates many of our decisions, and after living as monks and priests without money, having a wealthy life gives us an opportunity to alleviate the plight of others. I have met people who came from rich families and are actually embarrassed by their situation. Perhaps countless lives in poverty doing religious work rewire their brain concerning money. Some of our wealthy lives are smooth and without any problems. Perhaps we spent previous incarnations scrubbing for food and shelter, and in our present life we live comfortably, which is good. Use your money to help other people if you can. Look after your family first, of course, and then move your money out. And always try to be generous and kind. I hope you enjoyed that. Today I found it really interesting the past lives with the gifts, especially when I do the readings and I see the people in their different situations. It was really interesting, the money one, because people who had money issues and poverty and mentality often were rich and had lost. I could see they lost their farms, or they had a fire that went through and overnight they lost all their money. So they always had that past life trigger. I hope you enjoyed it today. I'll talk to you again next time and do the next section of past lives. Love and light.